Three,
Two,
two,
one.
one. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. Today we have a really awesome guest. His name's John. He's an energy healer, an actor, and just an all-around nice guy. So, John, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for letting me be here today with you all. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to get to share a little about myself and what I'm doing. What was your question?
Tell me a little bit about yourself. We want to know about John.
Yeah, so I don't like to actually call myself an energy healer. I'm using the word energy facilitator or healing practitioner because I'm not a healer, just to get that out of the way. Energy healing is a holistic modality that helps the body regenerate natural healing. So I'm not healing anyone. I'm just the facilitator. I run the energy. I connect to higher source, and the energy comes through me to you, the practitioner. The client, and depending on what you want to work on when you come to see me for a session. So the actual healer is you, the client. You're doing the healing.
Got it.
Yeah, I'll say when I did my session with you that night, I slept better than I've slept in years. It was amazing.
That is great to hear. Most everyone that I've worked with has said that to me, and that is one of the benefits. I do list that on my website, but I've gotten into the habit of not telling people that so that they can come back to me with that. And almost everybody comes back to me with that about the sleep, because that's a big noticeable effect that they have during an energy healing session.
Do you want to plug your... Oh, sorry, go ahead, G-Rex.
I was just going to ask you, how did you get into being a energy facilitator?
So it was back in mid-January of 2020, a few months before the pandemic started. I quit my 33-year career with the federal government. I was that probably around 2014, I started noticing that I was being treated differently. And so I ended up filing a discrimination lawsuit. And I was also a whistleblower. And that's all I'll go as far as I'll take that. But for those about 5 years, the retaliation was immense. I stood up for myself, for my 2 Black coworkers, female coworkers, and my 2 Asian female coworkers. And just the retaliation was immense, and it was just really taking a toll on me. And I've always known since I was a young boy that I had fairly strong intuition. And I was on vacation in 2019 at the end of the year. Even while I was on vacation, they were retaliating against me. And I got this click and I heard it within me. And I knew that it was time to go, that I had to go. So I decided I'm quitting. And I told them 2 weeks later, I was on a Wednesday, and I said, I'm leaving on Friday. And as a result of that, I decided I've been saving money through my 401k. I had a lot of money in there that I had been saving since my 20s, so I could live off of that until my pension kicks in at the end of this year. So that's what I've been doing the last 3 years. But I don't have any health care because when I left, I didn't you don't get health care in this country. Is not, unfortunately, it's not tied to your job. But I've been in great health most of my life. I have a rent control apartment that I was going to um, do this for me. And my goal was to take a year off and then find another job. But before I quit, so in 2019 and then 2020, and the pandemic hit, those 2 years were the worst years for me. What I was going through, I felt like I was hanging on by a thread. And I had, during that time that was happening, a coworker had told me about this meditation app called Insight Timer. It's a free meditation app. I had tried meditation in the past and I was just too antsy. I just couldn't quiet my mind to do it. So I gave it up and never went back. And so during that time, I felt really desperate, like I was willing to do anything. So I started meditating. It was probably around 2017, 2018. And I was just doing it when I would wake up before going to work, because I was just so stressed out every day. I was really suffering. My life had become going to work, coming home, eating. I was just like stuck in this rut. And it was mostly, the thoughts in my head. And so I started noticing the change just by that meditation early in the morning. But during the first year of the pandemic, I had stopped, because I felt like I was hanging on by a thread. And I thought what I had was psoriasis started to happen a few years prior, and it was getting bad. And so I just happened to, look up online how to heal psoriasis, because I didn't have healthcare. And I have read like there's no cure. They don't know why this happens. Meditate. I was like, oh, I haven't been meditating. This is probably in September or October of 2020. So I started back meditating. And at that time, right a few months beforehand, Insight Timer, because of the pandemic, they started having live sessions with teachers, meditating teachers. So I really immersed myself in meditating, because we were all shut down, not going out anywhere. And I was attending these 5, 6, 7 live sessions a day and really meditating a lot. And I just started noticing the shifts happening in my mind, in my body, with that much meditation. And so it was probably February of 2021, I had somewhat of a spiritual awakening, and that I realized that a lot of my issues, being an adult child of an alcoholic, my mother was an alcoholic growing up, and my core wound is abandonment, my fear of abandonment. So I started gravitating to a lot of inner child, Insight Timer live, focusing on that. And one of them was an energy healing that I had been attending for 6 months before I decided to do it, because I just started feeling things through these live sessions that I watched over the phone. And I thought, this is quite amazing that, doing this group energy healing with strangers from all over the world. And I'm feeling stuff. I'm starting to feel it work. So I went, they talked about the classes they had. So I went on their website. And one of the things that really drew me to Field Dynamics Healing to take their classes was about diving deep into yourself, into your personal, finding out who you are in a way. They didn't specifically say that, but I like that. This is what I need to do. So I took their classes. I did a 1-year training and got certified last year. And it's just it has, what I have found with energy healing is that it has accelerated my healing and my growth more than any other modality that I have ever tried in my entire life. That's kind of a big, long explanation.
But that's great. Do you want to plug your website and your services?
Sure. I'm called Johnergy Healing, JOHNERGY, johnergy.com. You can find me on my website. It's a wonderful, beautiful holistic modality, and because you'll read about it on my website. But what I like to say is, everything is energy, and so energy healing is we all have around us a field, an energy field, about 7 or 8 layers around us, and a lot of people can see it. My teacher is one of them. I'm not there yet, hopefully. And so if you're having a lot of like blocks within your system, you may feel something is off. Kind of a lot of things in life can cause you blocks. If you have unprocessed emotions where you're stuffing things down, which, inner child work, you do that because, you're growing up. Most parents don't teach you how to deal with your emotions because they themselves don't know how to deal with your emotions. So when for me as an inner child, and the work that I've done is stuffing those emotions down. And I've had just in the past 2 years, just tremendous healing with all of that.
Quick question.
That's pretty up.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
G-Rex.
I'm done.
Okay.
No, you go.
So your last job to where you are now, how much time was that? How long has it been?
It's been 3.5 years. January in 2020 is when I left.
And then your first year out, because you mentioned you set like a time frame for yourself. Well, I'll do this for a year. And was that really to discover and self-heal from like your previous employment, or what was the goal of having that first year off?
The interesting thing was I've done a lot of spiritual work and therapy throughout my most of my life, especially in my early 20s. And so I've always known to ask, what is the spiritual reason this is happening to me for me to learn something? And for 5 years, I constantly asked myself, why is all this work drama happening? And I could never find a reason spiritually that it was happening. And it wasn't until I really dedicated myself to my meditation practice before I started the energy healing, studying that. It's like, oh, I have to heal this core wound of abandonment. That is why I have to heal that stuff. I really have to confront it because I've done so much therapy on it. I went to Al-Anon for 7 years. In my 20s, all my relationships were with alcoholics or drug addicts. And so I learned a lot there, but I never really kind of confronted that inner child stuff. And then I started in my 20s. I also studied the Course in Miracles very intently for 3 years. I dabbled in some Buddhism, and I found all those practices to be very healing and help me spiritually. And then I kind of got away from all of that in my late 30s to 40s. And I always had this overwhelming feeling regarding the abandonment. I'm just going to have to live with it.
Mm.
And I've had, in December was when I had the greatest healing of my life. I've had lots of small healings around that the past 2 years. But it's, I've been able to do that with the self-practice that I do on myself with the energy healing, and really getting to those energy blocks in my system and making space for myself for healing to occur. Because when you remove those blocks out of your energy system, that's when I start getting insights. Most of my insights come to me because I walk in nature every day. That was one of the things that I started to do at the beginning of the pandemic, was walking, hiking every day. And because I'm able to commune with nature as a Taurus and earth sign, I find nature very healing.
Are you, when you're on your hikes, are you actively practicing anything, or are you really just in the moment and observing what's around you?
I do, when I'm hiking, most of the time, that's when I listen to podcasts, but I also do a lot of praying.
Mm,
I get in a moment in a space of awe with nature. That's where all of my spirit animals have come to me over the last 2 years. Because while I studied um, energy healing, I also studied shamanism beside that for a year as well, and that was life changing as well. So I do a lot of praying. I have a special tree that I go to that I hug, and I do a lot of praying there. Um, so I do a lot of things on those hikes.
gotcha. And so this, it sounds like, and maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like this worked for you and you want to be able to share
Yes.
that with others. I I haven't attended one of your sessions yet, but as you're talking, I'm thinking of a moment, which maybe that's what it was, me like letting go of energy and, cleansing myself in a way. And I had to confront somebody in my family about something that happened in the past. And I guess I should reword that. It wasn't that I had to. It was I found myself in a moment where I couldn't avoid it anymore. Like I couldn't. I didn't want it to be a part of my everyday life or existence, so I confronted it. And as soon as that happened, it was almost like immediately like a block got lifted, and it was from that point forward, I haven't ever felt the way I used to before. Like I'm like, oh, like I could let it go, I could breathe, I can just keep moving on. Um, so that's what I'm comparing what you're talking to is just that feeling of relief and removing some of that negative energy out and only
Yes,
taking in positive.
absolutely. And energy healing, the practice that I work with, we deal with what's called a field first model. So whatever happens to you in life happens in your energy field first, outside of your body. And then that energy just, if what's is above you is called your tube torus, like a donut shape above your head in your energy field. And it goes down inside your body in your root chakra. I mean, from your crown to your root chakra and along your spine is called the central channel where your chakras. The chakras are your main energy points within your energy field in your body. So all those emotions, that energy, that unresolved stuff, and we stuff it all down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it can possibly affect you emotionally, spiritually, and physically, kind of a body, mind, spirit modality.
I'll tell you when I had my session with you, like I could feel like just I felt different, right? Like I felt like these competing factors that hence the name of the podcast, shit that goes on in our heads. I just felt some of that like melt away, and I am scheduling another session soon. But it was really like I hadn't felt that before. And yes, I go to therapy and I get great relief from that. But this was a different kind of relief. And it was just an interesting feeling for me.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yes, and one of the things that a great thing to share with people and your listeners is because we did our session over Zoom, right?
Right.
So people think that it's a distance healing. People may think, oh, well, how am I going to feel that over the computer, over Zoom? And so what distance healing does is, so I'm here in San Francisco, California on my computer and Zoom with you during our session. You're upstate New York. So we, even though we're not in the same room, we're still creating an energy field between us. So that energy field from me in California to you in New York over 2,000 miles, that's a big energy field that we get to work with for healing to occur for you. And that's the amazing thing. I've had numerous people say to me, how did you do that over Zoom? It's just, I'm just running energy. We're working with higher source. So I'm not really doing anything except running energy. So, but it's an amazing, amazing thing. Recently, I was on with colleagues. We do group sits quite a bit, and there was four of us in this one particular one a few weeks ago, and there was a new graduate, and she lived in um, Australia. So that was the first time I've ever had someone that far away. It was from the West Coast to the East Coast and up in um, England and then all the way to Australia. And that was one of the most powerful sessions I have ever been part of. Just that expanse of energy, that field between all of us. It was amazing experience.
What has been the biggest thing you've learned in this journey?
Um, I was a little naive when I thought like, okay, yes, I'm going to focus on my core wound of abandonment. Yes, that is, I feel that's something that runs through me. And then I started doing that. But what I realized was with the experience that I've been going through the last 2 years, I've delving deep into myself to getting to know myself. And just doing that is uprooting everything in my life. I thought that most of my relationships with my friends were fairly secure. And I've learned that they were not. And as I shared briefly, I had the biggest healing experience in my life in December. And as a result of that, I've lost most of my friends are now gone, and especially my core circle that I thought was my circle of friends. And because I naively believed that my relationships were okay and that they actually were not. And a lot of that doesn't really have to do with them. It's me. I learned about a lot of my issues around people pleasing, the abandonment, and like around the abandonment, my core wound. The other fear is if I tell you how I feel, you're going to leave me. That's kind of what is underneath that abandonment. So I started, through all this healing I've been speaking up. And when you're going through these changes, I've known that this has happened to me before. When you're going through changes, people don't like it when you change. they like they get this idea of who you are, and that's how we interact with people mostly, right? So it was just the naivety of thinking that only this part needed to change, and it's my entire life has been uprooted and changed,
Yeah.
everything.
And you mentioned
And that's been the sad part too. That's been, there's a lot of grief around that.
letting go of that group of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that you do meditation. Is it just quiet or is there a specific kind?
So when I first started meditating, I did guided meditations. I was doing them a lot. And through the process of the energy healing, I've gotten away from doing guided meditations. And I'm just doing mostly energy work. And energy work is a form of meditation. You're sitting in a meditative state with your eyes closed, and you're going within yourself and kind of what we call it the witness, establishing the witness, watching what's going on inside of you, and trying not to put judgment on it. That's the most beneficial thing I think of meditation is quieting the mind. And it's the same with energy healing. You try to quiet the mind. So I'm not doing for over a year now. I've not done guided meditations, but if I highly recommend if you've never done meditation before and you want to try it to help quiet the mind, then start with guided meditations. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a person who struggles to just sit there, and I know it's more than just sitting there, but like I'm always in my own brain and in my own mind. And the one successful time I had with meditation was a guided one because I think it helped me focus on what somebody was saying, so it wasn't completely leaving me to my own shit that goes on in my head.
Yeah.
And to be able to listen and kind of dive into that world was pretty cool. So how long do your energy healing sessions normally run?
A session is only 50 minutes. Um, um, and the other thing about energy healing is for if someone wants to try it, give it a try. Energy healing is not talk therapy. When you come to a session, I'll ask you some questions, to see what's going on with you, if you know what you want to work on, what's bothering you. And I'll, frame some questions around that and where it feels in your body and stuff like that. It's not, like traditional talk therapy. It's very different. And I will say a lot of people who may feel fidgety around just regular meditation, numerous people, and I think G-Rex, you may have experienced this too, that they didn't during an energy healing session, they didn't get fidgety. They noticed that the fidgetiness went away, that they may experience, that they were, it's almost like putting someone under in a way, because you really feel the energy that I'm running. You feel it coursing through your energy field.
Yeah, when I did it, I was in my office, sitting in my office chair. The next time I do it, I'm going to do it from my bed because I feel like I'll probably just go to sleep.
I was gonna say.
I'm going to tell you though, it was like the coolest feeling in the world. I felt so refreshed after the session. It healed me from like the inside out. And it's a lot different than talk therapy, but I highly recommend it, man. I'm telling you, I've done a lot of different stuff in my life. I'm a lot like you, Dirty Skittles. I have a hard time with meditation because the problem with me is like, ooh, there's a squirrel. I have a little ADHD going on in my head. So doing the session with John, it was so much different, and I really loved it. It was like it's something that I want to add to my modality of
Self-care.
my own healing that I need to do for myself.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a weird question. But John, how does it feel for you when you're in an energy session and you're working with someone? Do you feel anything? Is it, I don't know.
So what I've noticed for me, and because with energy healing, you're using your intuition and you're also using your ESP. We all have ESP, right? It's extrasensory perception. And my what I get is what's called clairsentient. I feel a lot going on in my body. You may have clairaudience, which is you hear things, which sometimes happens for me, or clairvoyant when you see visions. A lot of my colleagues that I studied with, they get visions. Sometimes I get that. It's very rare that I get that. The clairaudience and the clairvoyance. I'm more clairsentient, so I'm feeling things in my body. And I, if I may check in with you to see if you're feeling that, or you tell me that you're feeling something going on, and then it can all do with your chakras too. You feel things in your different chakras. So that's mainly for me what happens is the clairsentience. And what I would expand upon that, I learned that at a very young age. I was very aware, but without, I couldn't identify it then, having an alcoholic mother, you could feel the energy when you go into the room. You could feel that your mother was upset, so I was very tuned in to how I was feeling and how the other person was feeling. So that's kind of how I toned or tuned my clairsentience that goes on with me, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. I'm curious if like, do you do anything afterwards just to make sure you're taking care of yourself since you're helping so much?
Well, like I tell everyone, at an end of a session, it's best to, you know, if you're able to go outside, you have a yard, take a walk in nature, put your feet on the ground, lie down on the ground, let all your chakras go on to Mother Earth. You could take a shower. Um, Water is very good for cleansing energy. Um, you could flick it off your body if you're feeling it. I haven't felt too intense when I have sessions with people yet. But I get a lot of the cleansing in nature.
Man, could you have ever imagined you would be doing this?
Never. There was never a goal because I didn't know what I was going to do after I quit my job, but I trusted my intuition. It's a good story that because I started taking those walks and I started feeling, I just felt so good taking those walks every day. And I kept saying to myself, I don't have to go back to work. And when I would say that, my whole body would it would release. I would feel calm. And I was doing that every day just to make because I was so on edge and so wound up with stress um, that I would do it every day. And I listened to myself. I trusted myself and I trusted my intuition and I listened to that voice. I don't have to go back to work. And I listened to the feeling in my body. And because I listened to it, it brought me, I can go all the synchronicity to the steps that got me here, all that needed to happen. And it was trusting the intuition to do that.
Yeah, intuition is strong. I feel like people don't listen to it the way that they should all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, that's cool. Like I'm happy for you. I mean, I wasn't there along the side while you were going through whatever it was that you were going through, but I think that that's such an important message to trust your intuition and ultimately you're doing what makes you happy, right?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, and it's still a discovery. I still have lots to learn. I still have, want to do different things with it, learn more things, and go into more of it. So we'll see where it takes me.
Yeah, what do you want to do next, or what's next on your list?
Kind of right. I'm building my practice. I want to start doing like you see a lot of like I recently went back to Instagram. I think that's how G-Rex found me. And I want to start doing some content, but I don't want to do a lot of content. Some of the people, the teachers that I see, they're doing constant content 2, 3 times a day, every day. And I don't want to do that. I know that I don't want to be a big content creator. I'm still going through some imposter syndrome stuff with that. I want to start doing some group healings, with people, offering that. So I'm kind of slowly taking it, because I get a pension coming. It's not going to be enough to live off of, but it's going to pay the rent and everything. So I'm going to start proctoring soon, to bring in some extra money and then, doing my energy healing practice.
It's funny.
That.
It's funny how you talk about imposter syndrome. So, I just went back to work, right? And I have a little bit of that imposter syndrome going on myself. And I talked to my therapist about it. It's a normal feeling, right? Like I took 4 months off to just heal, right? And Dirty Skittles and I were talking about this the other day. It's like in those 4 months, like I got to just let go, right? I wasn't on call. I didn't have people coming to me and asking me for questions. I didn't have to check email. I got to work on a passion project that I absolutely love. And it's funny, my wife said I spend more time on the podcast than I ever did working at my job for 15 years, right? It's because I really like doing it. I love this. It's making a difference in people's lives. And something that my therapist said to me yesterday, and it kind of just touched my heart. She's like, I hope that when I'm 60, that I have as much passion and joy and can bring as much laughter into people's lives that you do. Because she's like, when she sees me, I just light up the room. I was telling Dirty Skittles that, I finally am starting to see myself the way that all of you see me, right? Like it took me a long time. And now going back into the workforce, I'm excited because I still have a little bit to give, right? I have a lot of stuff in my head I want to give to somebody else. And I want the next generation to, be successful and take the lessons that I've learned and kind of run with them. But like my other question for you, John, is that I know you're an actor too, right?
Yeah.
I looked at your IMDb, and so I kind of wanted to find out like how that is for you, and with all this crazy strike and stuff going on, and how that all played into your career and your life.
Yeah. So I've been an actor my entire life. When I was very young, I was creative in everything. I acted, I danced, I sang, I was in band, I did arts and crafts, like every artistic thing you could do when you were younger, I did it. And then when family stuff started happening, a lot of that kind of got squelched, I believe, for myself. But I always stuck and chose the acting. So that started for a very young age for me. Um, but I started working I moved out of my house when I was 16. And kind of the way my family dynamic was, there wasn't, even though there was provided for us, there was no emotion stuff there. Like, you want to go to college? Okay, we'll do that. Like I didn't know anything about college, like grew up poor. I had no one helping me with that. I moved out to live with my aunt. And so right after I graduated high school, my mother, who worked for the government, she had gotten sober when I was 16. And so I took the test to a civil service test to work for the government. And I started that at 18. And then at 21, I was in a relationship with this guy. It had come out when I was 18 as well. And I moved to San Francisco when I was 21 years old in 1988, which is a very different time. There's a lot of death around. It was during the height of the AIDS. But I started going to City College in San Francisco, taking acting courses, taking private acting courses, and started doing a lot of stage stuff, always hoping, to make it big. That was always my dream, be a big, famous, rich movie star, right? And numerous times in my life when I was like, okay, it's time to move to LA because that's where all the action is. But I could just never leave San Francisco. So I got my first agent when I was 30. They closed down a few months after I was with them. And then I've been with the same agent ever since. I've had the same agent for 26 years. A lot of stuff isn't filmed in San Francisco, especially if you're, movies or television. They have a speaking part they need, they bring people from LA. They don't cast local actors in a lot of stuff here. So I was still, I was getting cast and stuff. I was still young. When you're young, that's that's when you're most castable. And doing some commercials, some print ads, doing industrials. I was working not regularly, but doing a lot. And then in 2015, when they were going to do a movie, the second movie on Steve Jobs, based on the Walter Isaacson book on Steve Jobs. They filmed the entire thing here in San Francisco and in the South Bay of San Francisco as well. And so my agent sent me an audition for that movie, and I really wanted to be in that movie. And I was like, I don't think I'm right for this part. Like the guy had long hair who I was going to audition for. And, I went to the casting director and then I see people dressing like him and like, okay, the stuff going on in your head when you're sitting in an audition room. So I went in, did my audition, and I always bring my glasses because when you do audition stuff, they kind of want to get a few different takes and a few different ways of doing it. And I said, how about with my glasses? Because this character wore glasses. And they said, sure. And so I did the audition and fine, left. It all went fine. I usually do very well auditions, but I feel good because any time that I leave an audition, I'll say to myself, what did I just learn? From my training as an actor, I asked myself, what did I just learn at that audition? And I felt, pretty good about it. And a few days later, my agent called and I got the part in the Steve Jobs movie to play Mike Markkula, who was the chief investor of Apple and their second CEO. It was a small part, but it was a dream come true. And it all happened so very quickly. I only had one audition, which was amazing to me. I had to go down to the sets for fittings like immediately, and then I was like on set the next day.
Wow.
I mean, a few days after, yeah. And I had, in total, I was on set 4 days. It was an amazing experience for me. I loved every minute of it, and it was a dream come true. So dreams do come true, but when that movie premiered was when my work started getting really bad in 2015. So after I got the movie, I was started looking for agents in LA, and I went down for a few meetings and stuff, and thought maybe I could do that. I know a few people here who do that commute back and forth. And I thought, okay, I'll do that, but it's very, very expensive to do that. And so then it is just the work stuff took hold. So I stopped looking for agents there down in LA. And that's kind of just when I went into the tailspin of my life to where I am today. But I haven't worked since I got the movie because a lot isn't filmed here in San Francisco because now I'm in the SAG-AFTRA union and you can only do union work. Because I was trying to focus on that. So I haven't worked in the past 8 years doing any acting. I still get sent on stuff every now and then, but now we're on strike. So so I stand in solidarity with my union in LA and New York who are striking. We do some stuff here locally as well, which I've taken in as well, and has been great.
Did you ever watch the show Inside the Actors Studio with James Lipton?
Oh, I loved that show. Yeah.
So, G-Rex, what about you? Did you ever watch it?
Always. I loved that show.
So do you want to run through those questions that he asks at the end?
Oh, James Lipton's questions. That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just felt right in this moment. So we'll start with
you.
So
this is a dream come true too. Because I had always envisioned sitting there with James Lipton. I loved those questions that he asked with
Here they are. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word is grace.
Grace.
And I think grace is something that you can't describe, but you know it when you see it.
I get it. Do you wanna chime in, G-Rex? What's your favorite word?
What's my favorite word? My favorite word is humble.
Humble. I like these.
Because in life, as you get older, you become way more humble about things that happen in your life. And I am very humble right now.
Okay. Next question. What is your least favorite word?
I don't think I can say it on
What? Okay, well, you can spell it.
See you next Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about you, John? What's your least favorite word?
I would say panty.
Oh my gosh, me too. Me too. It just sounds aggressive, doesn't
Right?
it? Okay. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
I love working in groups with people. Over my life, being on different board of directors and stuff, or in creative, I love the group feeling of working together because I feed off the energy of other people.
Makes sense. What about you, G-Rex?
I'm going to say it's a couple of things. Nature being one. I get a lot of creativity when I'm working or if I'm just sitting out in my backyard. And the other one is being around friends. Um, I'm a true extrovert, so I need people around me to just bounce ideas off. So,
Okay. Next question. G-Rex, what turns you off?
hey,
What about you, John?
Probably fighting, arguments, fighting.
Got
I
it.
find it very triggering.
Yeah, I can understand that. Okay, next question. What is your favorite curse word? John, you're first.
Probably shit is what I use the most.
What about you, G-Rex?
fuck.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good one. Okay, what sound or noise do you love?
I love ocean waves and or rain. I use on Inside Timer. There's an 8 hour rain um, thing that I use to go to sleep every night, and I just find, even though I'm not a huge water person, I just find the sound of water very soothing.
For me, it is the sound of snow brushing through the trees. Um,
Mm.
if you get up early enough here in the mornings on the day that it snows, you can hear the snow brushing through the trees. It's eerie, but like a very calming feeling.
Very cool. What sound or noise do you hate?
Anybody that scratches their fingernails on a chalkboard.
Makes sense. What about you, John?
Um, I probably go back to the yelling again, even though I sometimes yell and I was brought up in a yelling family. That's how we communicated, was yelling, but it does, it's triggering to me.
All right. What profession other than your own do you want to attempt?
I would love to be a rock star, a pop star. It's kind of
Nice.
another thing that I always wanted to do.
Nice. What about you, G-Rex?
I would like to be a full-time mentor, especially to disadvantaged adults and kids.
That's nice. I can see that. What profession would you not want to do?
I don't want to be a trash man.
I don't want to be an accountant, anything to do with math.
Nice. Okay, and then the last question, which is arguably one of my favorites of this, is if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I've loved this question and
Me
I've
too.
always had an answer for it, and it was welcome home, John.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.